There's 31, Elkton as well, just north of Ardmore. All of these areas in that tornado warning until 4:30 this evening. So this tornado warning just issued by the National Weather Service in Giles County, moving to the east at just around 50 miles per hour. And one of the big things that we've seen so far with these storms is that they are moving pretty quickly. We're talking 50, 60, maybe even near 70 miles per hour in some spots. So let's go ahead and throw a track on this. I want to line it up right with the middle of that rotation. Elkton at 4:30, Del Rose 4:37, Coldwater 4:41. Now that's if this warning is in fact allowed to continue beyond all of that. But all of these storms have certainly had some damaging wind gusts as well as some heavier rainfall. This is the first tornado warning we've had and really what has been a couple of hours here. But as these storms move into these areas that have been decently quiet for much of our day today, areas in Bedford, Moore, Coffee, Franklin, Lincoln, Marshall counties, even Cannon County, Warren County, even though we've had a few storms pop up here and there, notice that things are still pretty quiet in these locations right now. There hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. There hasn't been a lot to suck the energy out of the atmosphere. So right now, this is sort of where we're looking for. This is going to be our main area in southeastern portions of Middle Tennessee, where the atmosphere has enough energy in it that when these storms move into these energy-rich environments, they can really begin to fire back up. Dan Thomas joining me now. Dan, this is one of the areas, like I said, that we were talking about earlier today, and it looks like things are happening that way now. And as we go into the next few hours, I mean, this whole area here, any storm that does actually move through, we could really start to see more storms fire up. They strengthen, and it doesn't take all that much to get some of these storms rotating a little bit. That's why we have that radar indicated tornado warning right now. That's in Giles County, going to move into Lincoln County. We'll also be watching Moore County as well as Franklin County. So we'll be watching for this, Dan, as these storms continue to progress over the next few hours.
That's right. Yeah, and I don't know if you pointed this out. I had just stepped out of the studio. I don't know if you pointed out that Lincoln, Moore, and Franklin counties are governed by a different National Weather Service office, the National Weather Service in Huntsville, and that's why it's a tiny, short-lived tornado warning. But Lincoln County, you might follow shortly. And so just over the border of Giles County, take a look at the radar there. You could see we have Fayetteville in the heart of Lincoln County, but there's going to be some communities in through here in this higher terrain or some houses. And if you're there, especially west of Fayetteville, just over the Giles County line and some of these mountains along 64, you've got to be in your safe spot as well. Just to err on the side of caution, you might get a tornado warning soon. You might not. We'll have to see how that goes. But notice, also interesting, tornado warning. Then I'm going to turn on the lightning tracker. And the amount of lightning strikes we have right now, let's try this again, see if that cooperates this time. 0. So we have a tornado producing storm potentially, radar indicated, that may have 0 lightning with it. And the reason for that is the storms are not tall enough today. There's not enough interactions, not enough collisions within the storm to make for lightning, but there's enough low-level rotation to get going and possibly cause a tornado on the ground right now down toward Minor Hill, just on the east side of Minor Hill. So if it's actually in progress now, it's going to be in the southwestern flank where we have this little hook. So it may try to broaden out, come around this whole side, and then we'll have a well-defined hook around the LL, the hill part of Minor Hill. But that's where the tornado warning or tornado would be if it was on the ground now, and it may be. So you got to be hunkered down, as Stefano said. In time, it gets to Highway 31. And so just to the east of Minor Hill is Elkton. So it's headed toward in that general direction. With any luck at all, it's going to lift north of Elkton, but we have to be prepared for it to hit Elkton. So Elkton, you've got to be in your safe spot. And then notice this dark brown line here. So here's Highway 31, goes from Ardmore through Elkton and then northwest of there. And then here's a dark brown line, and this is Interstate 65. So this thing may go right over Interstate 65. The bad thing is that I just looked out the window, and it is almost completely dark. The sun has not gone down yet, but because we have such dense clouds and the rain is so heavy at times, it's almost like the sun has gone down. So timing is not good on this. And then next in line again is going to be Lincoln County. It's going to be interesting to see what the folks in Lincoln County see there. You can see this is a live view right now. What do we have there? Is that Lawrenceburg? Oh. Okay, this is just downtown Nashville on the left. So just for comparison, Nashville is not in the severe weather threat zone, just in the moderate to heavy rain zone, some low clouds. Oh yeah, this is from our tower camera, and that's why we saw some clouds going by below the base of that, the base of the camera there. But Stefano, I mean, in my opinion, at least this is one of the better looking storms today. It doesn't have lightning, but it looked pretty good there for a couple of scans, and it still looks pretty good.
It really does. I think it's one of the storms that had the best structure to it so far, and you can really see with that rotation detector, and this is what we've been showing. I mean, pretty much every single storm, every hour that we've been doing this, and we were talking about this gate-to-gate shear. So you do a quick little math there, 79 miles per hour of shear, as that's how fast this storm is rotating. Those green returns moving to the north, red returns to the south away from the radar. So you look for that tight little couplet right over 31, and Dan was talking about it, and now you could actually see, excuse me, they're 65. So this is going just north of Elkton right now. You can really get a good idea where Conway, Liberty. Let's take a look at some of these roads. I'll step out so we can get just a better view here. I believe that's State Route 7 that runs right along 31 as well. Let's look a little farther out. Old Stage Road, Elkton Pike, as well as Moore Hill, Bryson, Delrose Road, Bunker Hill, Bryson Road. If you're hearing me, say your little towns, roads, if you recognize some of these, right where Dan is circling, this is right on top of us. It's moving to the east, Wellerton, right near Market Street as well. There's our radar scan. It's lining up very nicely with where Dan has things circled right now. The heavier rainfall, Dan, these storms are going to have damaging wind gusts with them, because we've been seeing that pretty much with every single storm that has been warned, and now we have that tornado warning, which I think goes until 4:30. Can you just click on it, Dan, so we can see? I think it's 4:30, right? So there's that tornado warning for 4:30. This is for Giles County. It's going to move into Lincoln County near Fayetteville. We'll kind of see what the National Weather Service offices end up doing with that, since it does move off into another one, Dan.
All right, let's look for debris, Stefano. And so it's possible. This is debris detector, and what we want to see if we're really seeing legitimate debris is for the cool colors on debris detector, and you can see that's what it's called here. Here are the cool colors. We just got a new picture in to match up with the maximum rotation. So I'm going to overlay that with this, and it's really close. It's really close, and you know what? As I sort of clear this circle here, it looks like that rotation may be trying to tighten up a little bit, get a little more organized. So Elkton, north side of Elkton, even downtown Elkton, though, this thing could be ramping up. Now 93. I don't know that we had 93 miles an hour before, but if we did, it was really close. So this thing could be intensifying, now crossing 31, probably actually, because that's a snapshot, it's probably the rotation right over I-65. We do not have TDOT cameras down there that are actually existing, so we can't look down there, but Bunker Hill, Bryson, Wheelerton, as Stefano mentioned a moment ago, and then just over the border into Lincoln County, there's Millville and Delrose. And it's really interesting to me that we haven't heard from the Weather Service down in Huntsville as to how they're going to play this thing, because the storm is definitely headed that way. And it could weaken below severe limits, and it looks like, at least from this reflectivity signature, maybe that's happening, where they're sort of waiting to see if it can get into the county, get into the western part of Lincoln County and still look really nasty. But as of now, if you're on the west side of Lincoln County, you've got to play it safe. Along 64, just south of there, you've got to be in your safe spot as well. It's a tight window, 4:30. This is the expiration time for this tiny little warning in southeastern parts of Giles County. I think I just lost my mouse. We'll try to get it back real quick. Here it is. So this is the warning, this little polygon, and it's a tiny part of Giles County. And then just east of there, we have Lincoln County. So we'll have to watch that. Tornado warning continues until 4:30 for Elkton. So no change there. Current time now 4:26. So if you're down in that neck of the woods, just hunker down. No need to panic. There's never a need to panic with weather if you're prepared. And so you just get to your safe spot. You bring your smart device with you. You can see the tips on the screen, and then hunker down. Basement is always best. Most people don't have those in Middle Tennessee. A storm shelter is fantastic. Most of us don't have those. So if you don't have those, you want to go to the lowest level, indoors, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and then protect your body from flying debris, protect your head from flying debris, because that is the biggest threat when tornadoes strike. So you want to just protect your body, insulate yourself from things flying through the air with pillows and blankets, helmets. Any kind of helmet's going to be better than no helmet. And so if you have a bicycle helmet, a sports helmet, a full frontal motorcycle helmet, or a dirt bike or four-wheeler helmet, that's going to be awesome. And just stay hunkered down until we give it the all clear. Now, even though this thing expires at 4:30, unless it weakens significantly, you'll probably have to hang in your safe spot for a little longer than that down in Giles County, because this storm will not be out of Giles County by then. It looks like the northern extent is looking less significant, less defined, but this is the most dangerous part of the storm. So this is just all rain, and that's why I say the northern extent. This still looks like it has some pretty good definition to it. And let's check on the rotation again, see if we have another picture. And it still looks like it's showing some decent rotation. And so it's not giving up. It just crossed 31. And it's just pretty much over I-65 right now, and still collectively about, what is that, 84 miles an hour of rotation right on the interstate now, in knocking on the door of western Lincoln County in southeastern Middle Tennessee.
Yes, what we'll see here is, what kind of happens with this. You can see that just south of there, Dan, it looks like another severe thunderstorm warning popped up. But this is one of the things we were talking about earlier today, just sort of with these storms coming up from the south. And they're going to have a little bit more room and a little more space to work with in these areas in southeastern Middle Tennessee, where we haven't had a whole lot of storm activity so far today. So the atmosphere still has just a little bit more of a kick in those areas. And that's kind of why these storms are able to work their way up. But it does look like that the tornado warning was expired right now, correct, in Giles County. And I did hear from the National Weather Service in Huntsville. Looks like they're not going to do it, possibly not take that warning in, but let's just give it a minute here and see. But, that storm is still going to have a little bit of a kick to it. It
will, and so it's good. I've turned a different radar on. This is actually the, let me go to the Huntsville Radar. And this is going to be the view from the closest radar. You can see how close it is. And so this is what the folks at the National Weather Service in Huntsville are looking at for their decision making. There's the cell over Elkton. There's I-65. You can see that label 65. I'll get a little tighter here. And then we'll check on rotation from this radar for another perspective. And it's still showing decent rotation. The level of atmosphere we're looking at is a half mile up. So about 2,500 feet off the ground. And that's pretty good wind for that elevation. So 85 miles an hour roughly of rotation in that neck of the woods. No official warning with this storm right now. From this reflectivity standpoint, it doesn't look as formidable as it did before. But if I had a family and I am around I-65, south of, say, 64 in Giles County, or just over the border into Lincoln County, I probably would just still want to be in my safe spot, just to err on the side of caution. All you're trying to do with severe weather is increase your chances of being completely fine, completely unscathed. There's no guarantee in life with anything, but with severe weather, you can really increase your odds of being completely fine, and therefore you don't have to worry. So err on the side of caution. It's going to, probably be in your area another 10 minutes, and then you can enjoy the rest of your New Year's Day. Now, that said, as Stefano was saying before, we're tracking additional storms to our south. And so here's that newly warned one that's just over the border down in northern Alabama, right in through here. So it's still, this one still is straddling I-65. It's this one right here with a severe thunderstorm warning until 5:15. So that's not in our News 4 viewing area, but it looks like it could in time impact Lincoln, Moore, and Franklin counties at least. Maybe in time Grundy and Coffee. So our job is not done here at News 4 watching the storms today, and we're not going to leave you until that threat is done. So really it looks like the main area for any severe weather shot the rest of the afternoon is probably going to be in this zone and through here. And I really think everybody north of there is in fine shape from severe weather. Not to say you're not going to have localized flooding, because some of that rain that continues to come down is very significant. Look at the rain totals for the last 24 hours. Let me go back to the Nashville area. 24 hours. So now we're starting to get into some of the brighter colors in Nashville, and that's at least 1.5 inches, and in some cases 2 inches, 2.1 inches. Okay, what do you see in there? Weak tornado on location 3 minutes ago. North of Elkton, is that a spotter?
Looks like that was a spotter, but it was also in one of the updates here that it was observed at one point in that general area. It looks like the National Weather Service did allow the warning to expire, though, because the rotation sort of broadened up a little bit. But the problem is these storms can fire themselves back up, and they can pulsate a little bit. So as they continue to move and they continue to go through the maturing process, they will sort of fall apart, but they can get themselves back together, Dan. And then that's why we kind of have to keep watching this for the next couple of minutes here to make sure that it doesn't start spinning back up on us.
That's right. Now we have our first lightning strike with this, so that could be a sign that it's starting to build some vertical development. I want to do a little slice here, and let's just go right through the storm and see what it looks like. And when we do that, we can see first how high it is, and second what the structure looks like. This is just one little 2D slice that I've made, one little part of the storm, but I'm going to pull that back. And so this is one of the top, believe it or not, it's interesting, this is one of the taller storms we've seen today. So this thing goes 2.5 miles up, or pardon me, roughly 25,000 feet, so roughly 5 miles up in the air for some of these really bright, warm colors. And that means the heaviest rain, maybe some moderate-sized hail that's probably melting before it gets down to the ground. But at least some pretty big-sized drops of rain. And you can see 30,000 feet. So now we're into the altitudes at which planes fly. So some of the cells today were about 15,000 feet high. That's it. And so this is one of the taller ones, and therefore clearly, as you can see from what we're doing here, one of the stronger ones as well. Current time 4:36. I want to hang with you, even though we don't have an active tornado warning, for another 5 minutes, and just to watch this thing a little bit longer, and so we can feel better that it's looking more ragged. I'm going to show you the time lapse for the last 30 minutes. This is the current view of that cell. It's right in the middle of your screen. This is the one we're watching now, starting to get into western Lincoln. I'm going to back it up all the way back 30 minutes. Watch how this thing has evolved. And when it was right in through here, it probably looked its worst. And that's when we had that tornado warning issued. But now that has been allowed to expire. And the storm is not weak by any means, but it's not as well organized as before. But I'm telling you, I would be watching this zone in through here, right in through here, for, choose the correct tool, Telestrator, for potentially a developing tornado. We don't know. This could be cycling, as Stefano mentioned, and it could ramp back up. We'll check on the rotation. So there's a little hook there, and look at that rotation. This does not want to go away.
It's still there.
Yeah, we got to stay with you folks. I mean, sometimes we don't get paid here at News 4 just to read papers and say, hey, this is what we see, come across the wires. We also are encouraged to give our own input. And when you see nearly gate to gate, meaning side-by-side rotation of 110 miles an hour, I think we would be negligent to leave you. And so we're not going to do it. Now, thank God this is very rural. But we've got some homes out here. We've got some streets. So the west side of Lincoln County, to err on the side of caution. Just to play it absolutely safe, I would advise you to be hunkered down. Millville, Delrose, West Cyruston, getting close to Pearl City in time. And so not tons of people here, but there are some people. J.D. Suggs Road, Curtis Road, that's Short Creek Road, Carpenter Road, Leatherwood, it looks like Creek Road, Cunningham Hollow Road, Hickory Ridge Road. I'm just talking about a bunch of streets that could be near a tornado trying to get going again, potentially. Very weak tornado with small funnel and ground circulation crossed I-65, according to an unconfirmed report. But, you know,
sometimes with these small little ones, these funnels, you can get them to quickly drop, raise back up, and then the storm kind of progresses, and then it does the same thing, and it can hop along, and that's kind of what can happen sometimes.
That's right. And so we're still a little ways from Fayetteville. And so this is getting close to 64 right now. Let's put the rotation in motion. And here's Highway 64. I'm going to give you the most current picture here. And so here's Highway 64, goes right into Fayetteville, then east of there over toward Winchester. So we are really pretty much, because it's moving, almost on top of 64. And so then we're going to cross the road that connects Fayetteville to Petersburg, if you're familiar with that. And so we're getting more reports on that, Stefano, aren't we? The truckway station ramp,
yeah.
You seeing that?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So supposedly where this thing crossed 65, a weak, short-lived tornado was near a truck way station ramp. And if you've ever driven on 65 through Southern Middle Tennessee, you've got a bunch. And so, but as we zoom out a little bit, this is easily the most intense storm in the game this afternoon, early this evening. There's another one. So we're watching this. We do not have an official tornado warning, but I'm telling you, I don't feel comfortable going away from you right now based on what I'm seeing on the radar. And then there's another one across the Tennessee-Alabama line. And a new picture just came in, and now we got some pretty solid gate-to-gate, meaning side-by-side, greens, and, you know, we're still up around 90. And the distance of those two little pixels on the computer is a half mile. And so that's pretty intense circulation. If it's not hitting the ground, well, that's just a New Year's Day blessing.
It is. We could check the debris detector to see if we can really see anything that's in there. And
let's go back to the circulation. And so let's circle that, because if these don't match up, it's a waste of your time. So they have to match up. And so there's that. And then let's go back to the debris detector. And it's close, but it's not quite there.
You want them stacked on top of each other
stacked.
almost. Is that's what you want to be able to see there.
Right on. So it's very interesting. There's some really cool colors right here on this forward flank. But you know what? That could also be someone who didn't clean up their leaves. They all got blown up. We've got tremendous inflow winds. Let me just turn off this tool. So this is sort of untouched by the rain that we've had today, all down here, and is just an awfully strong wind coming in from the south today. If you've been out today, you know what I'm talking about. Just coming in from the parking lot, it was gusting to about 40. And so if there's a lot of leaves or some sort of debris, it can get blown up on the forward flank of these storms. And we're not far from the radar, so we're not too high in the sky. And so that could cause some debris, possibly. I don't know. It's tough to say. But we do have a lot of rotation there, and it's just
tightening itself.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And then we have the storms that are a little farther down to the south that are eventually going to work their way into these counties as well, by the way. So, right. You know, when we were talking about it, you know, these storms that are coming up from the south, that was going to be our main concern through this evening. The fact that those areas are actually in a decently, you know, energy-rich environment. But I want you to look farther to the west. This is sort of where our tornado watch was allowed to expire. That was in parts of West Middle Tennessee, especially north of I-40 and west of 65. And our severe threat in this area in West Middle Tennessee is pretty much done. It's east of 65 and south of 40 where we really are going to watch for that potential to have some strong gusty winds, heavier rainfall, even that brief spin up tornado like we were just taking a look at. We have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings in northern Alabama right now. We're going to see what those do as they move up to the north and east. They're definitely going to get into our area. It's really just if they can keep their strength as they do so. So here's those 2 severe thunderstorm warnings right near Florence, just near Athens as well. There's that Huntsville radar we're talking about. This storm actually looks like it's got a little bit of muscle with it because we have a little bit more lightning strikes in here. And that's something we haven't had a whole lot to talk about. I mean, 15 lightning strikes is actually, believe it or not, or 19 lightning strikes, one of the higher numbers that we've actually seen today. So you're not really hearing these storms as they're coming in, but you're seeing the wind, and you can see that these storms are sort of on a conveyor belt right behind one another, just 50, 60 miles in between these 2 storms, and that can cause some flooding problems, and that is something that we certainly have seen. For a lot of us, that severe threat may have moved out, but because we've already had the rainfall, any additional heavier downpours, even though these storms are moving quickly, that could still cause some minor flooding, maybe some ponding on the roadways this evening. If you have any plans tonight, you'll want to keep that in mind. And now that the sun is setting, Dan, this turns into a whole new ball game now that it's pretty much dark at this point.
It is, yep. The sun has gone down, I think, just a couple minutes ago. And so let's go back, and so we see the two storms just south of the Tennessee state line that you identified, and then this one farther north, and I just want to take another look at that. We don't have a warning with that of any sort. It's possible. The winds here, the rotation is weakening, so that's good. It may be sort of overwhelmed by just a lot more outbound winds as opposed to inbound. It's still there. We still have some rotation, but it looks broader. It looks less intense than it was just a few minutes ago. Maybe we give it another volume scan and see what happens as it's crossing 64. We're getting really close. No warning in effect with this. The folks at National Weather Service Huntsville are watching it just as intently as Stefano and I are. And so they're watching it and looking at the radar data and just waiting to see what they think is going to happen. Petersburg, a little farther north. You've got heavy rain. If you're watching from Petersburg, you don't have to worry about severe weather. It's not in your area now. It may be later, but you're in very good shape now. But again, it's just west of 231. So if you're along 231 north of Fayetteville, it's going to come on in and really get your attention as the rain picks up here in about 3 minutes. Time now right now is about 4:45. You can see it on the radar, about 4:45. And then there's Fayetteville. There's Fayetteville. And then let's check on this rotation detector. We've got a couple of different pictures to look at here. Here's one of them, and here's another. And they both show decent rotation in the same general area. So, and then we'll look at debris detector and just see if that matches up at all. And it doesn't match up great. There could be a little debris west of there, but it's not matching up in terms of location as well as we might think it would. Oh, good. All right, so this is the new picture. I know I keep saying this, but I'm going to give it one more volume scan. The inbound winds, the greens, continue to shrink. And so this shows that the circulation is breaking down. I don't want to leave you yet, Fayetteville. If you're on the west and northwest side of Fayetteville, I would stay away from windows, stay indoors. Don't try to put the car in the carport or in the garage. Just remain indoors and away from windows. But it looks like, based on that latest picture, that the storm is trying to pulse down. There's still a pretty good hook there, but from a rotation standpoint, things are looking a little more favorable. Still, now we have 3 lightning strikes with that cell, and we're not done yet. There's more trying to develop just over the Tennessee state line. As we mentioned, I don't know if you saw us on Facebook Live a few hours ago. No, it was more like an hour ago, pardon me. Tuscaloosa got to 80 today. And so, but meanwhile, early this morning up in Minnesota, it was about 40 below. And that's not the wind chill, that's the air temperature. So the temperature difference in a general area that's pretty tight is making for today's severe weather. It's not just the cold front, it's just a big difference in temperature. 3 storms passing along the same general area, so southeastern parts of the mid-state. We have to watch you really closely. 447 on the radar. Let's look at this rotation again. Stefano?
And it looks like that rotation, more and more signs that it's weakening, but it kind of looks like that it's sort of broadening itself out too, which is good as well. It's not as tight of a circulation. Not only is it weakening, but when it does that, the rotation just kind of falls apart. And that's always a good sign. You just don't want these storms to pulsate, but you got to watch the storms, like we were saying, back behind there, because what we've seen with pretty much every storm so far is that if they were going to spin something up, they're doing it very quickly, and then they can't really hang on much longer after that.
True. Why don't we do this? Stefano and I are not leaving the Weather Center, not leaving News 4. Let's send it back to programming. We'll be with you in just about 10 minutes on News 4 at 5 o'clock with an update. We'll look at the storm again. The other one's down in Alabama, and let you know what to expect tomorrow as colder air comes in and moisture hangs around. It's going to be interesting in Middle Tennessee tomorrow as it starts to look like winter in some communities. Stay with us right here on News 4. We'll be back in 10 minutes or less.
I knew you were the right